Welcome to the last session here on Channel 3 about troubleshooting, integration troubleshooting in SAP BTP ABAP environment. As already stated here on the slide, we'll just offer troubleshooting capabilities in the steampunk system. On the last ABAPConf, we had a presentation from Sascha Wächter, also here in the audience. He just complained about, there is no real troubleshooting capabilities, and how do you do troubleshooting in regards to integration, security, connectivity, and we just take that, and then I just proposed a session, maybe to also already to show that here, and that's why I'm here, and giving an intro on the tools that you can use in Steampunk to do connectivity troubleshooting. My name is Ingo Bräuninger. I'm part of the ABAP enablement team in Walldorf. Our team is basically therefore to enable customers and partners on the one hand to develop, on the other hand to operate their solutions on the Steampunk stack. And of course, connectivity is an essential part of the Steampunk stack overall. So maybe you saw the session from Olga and Thomas couple of 2 hours ago, and there was a big part, of course, connectivity, calling from an on-premise system, doing ATC checks in a central test system, vice versa, bringing the results back. And believe me or not, I just helped also to set up exactly this scenario because we will run into some connectivity issues. And that's a really live scenario. And maybe with that session, I just give you some insights what could be happen and what tools can you use in order to get rid of connectivity problems. Okay, then let's start. First of all, I will just give you a short overview and also share basic principles of the connectivity overall. So what parts, what technologies are involved here. Then I just have a quick 2 to 3 slides about what troubleshooting that we do have. I will just show them, just say one sentence or one word, and then at least during a demo we will then see the troubleshooting apps in action. No, it's always not moving here. Then I just start with a really easy inbound scenario calling to the Steampunk system an HTTP service, because the browser is always helpful here. With the basic authentication to see, hey, what happens in a real working mode. And then we just go step by step into some situations where we just use different authentication methods, certificate-based, SAML, or user token exchange, and I will just also share some issues there. What could happen if you are connecting to the Steampunk system? And of course, we do the other way around. So calling out from a Steampunk system over a so-called outbound scenario. I just have here a quota scenario. I will explain that in more detail what it is. And then, of course, we also then have a Steampunk to on-premise system, and also then an on-premise system to a Steampunk system call. In between, of course, we have the cloud connector. Thomas did not show that yet for this scenario from his ATC scenario, because there is a cloud connector in between, and also something can happen also there. We'll also share or give some lights on how is the setup, how is the troubleshooting on the cloud connector side. And hopefully, let's see, I'm not sure if we can manage it because of the time constraint that I show some kind of a mail scenario, maybe some SOAP scenario in an SQL service, or calling from an Excel sheet over an SQL service into the Steampunk system. But that's mainly also, again, if there are some issues, the same troubleshooting tools. Okay, then let's start. That's the big picture, how the integration basically works there. Of course, you might know as developer that we have the ABAP development tools here for development. Of course, also here we connect to a Steampunk system. I will not go into the detail of that because that should be easy. But nevertheless, there is, of course, an HTTP connection also happening there. And we will cover that anyway in the demos. And of course, then Fiori tools development, you just want to create your Fiori UI and deploy it to there. And exactly, we have there one scenario. I just picked one scenario here, connecting with the Business Application Studio to a Steampunk system, because here we are just using either SAML authentication or to use a token exchange. we'll exactly see here a scenario and also maybe some pitfalls of what could happen there, because it's a common scenario, would say also customers might struggle a little bit with. And of course, next one is then the big connectivity part, calling in and out to the system to either S/4HANA on-premise system, calling other cloud APIs or any other cloud solutions overall. And of course, using there a lot of services that are running on the BTP, as I just said, for example, Business Application Studio. To the integral parts, basic principles. So again, we have our sub-account. In the sub-account, our Steampunk system is a service instance there. We'll quickly show a demo in 1 second. And of course, then we are using for the on-premise scenario, Cloud Connector connecting to the sub-account. We'll also show that in a sec. So we see then that we can now connect our ERP system, calling to the cloud system, to the Steampunk system. We see then the Cloud Connector instance connected to our sub-account. I will show that. And of course, I, as a developer, create a communication scenario, so-called communication scenario, adding their inbound and outbound services as a developer. And as an administrator, I have to create a so-called communication arrangement. And this is an administrative task. At the end, it's a kind of SM59 destination what is created. A communication system and a communication user, depending what kind of authentication methods you are selecting. And then, of course, I can connect them in and out to the system. I also have a sample by using a so-called destination service or the destination in the destination service in the BTP. Exactly, to also then simulate, for example, this Business Application Studio call using a postman. Also using a postman as my client to show the demo, because it's quite easy to do some stuff wrong and also see the result then directly in the postman response. Okay, with that, then I will just give you first the demo. Maybe I just stop here sharing. Come on. Okay, then, show the setup. So what do we have? So I think we need to move a little bit down. So what do we have? So I have a sub-account in the BTP, and also here I see my Steampunk systems that I created here. It's called ABAPConf. That's the first part. Of course, I can directly also access then the Steampunk system. Again, it's a service instance. Maybe you just can search for this one here, XO2. There you see this exactly this instance, the ABAPConf instance. And that's the first part. Then on the other hand, again, this is then the instance itself, the ABAP FLP on the Steampunk system. Again, we just dig into the troubleshooting tools later. What I also do have is that we are having here some of the destinations that I will use later on in some of the scenarios. Just again, like a Business Application Studio connecting over destination on the destination service here to a Steampunk system. And of course, you also see that I have some misconfigured destinations here, because you can do something wrong here. That's quite important, and to see how you figure out what's going wrong. So just we are laughing. No, that's perfect. And of course, then what I also see here is if I click on the Cloud Connector, then I see I have a Cloud Connector connected to my sub-account here. There are multiple Cloud Connectors that we have running connected against the sub-account. And you also see the exposed backend systems here. And you also see, hey, one of these systems, that's exactly the one that we will use later on. There are currently no resources available. That's one of the troubleshooting points I will show later, because you have to expose, you have to allow list what you're allowed to call on your system. But we come to that in one of the demos. Okay, then let's go back. So that's the BTP part. Then let's go to the ADT part. So I have here an HTTP service developed. Small, really small sample. You can also directly call that in here, and hello ABAPConf, and we will reuse this small HTTP service on the one hand to show the troubleshooting in case we are doing something wrong. That's always the same HTTP service that we are calling here from different angles, and that's it. Okay, then what do we have here? I also have a function module here. maybe that's is it this guy here? Yeah, because we are using here HTTP as a protocol. Then of course I also have an RFC module that can be called, calling it locally, remotely with a class run. Yeah, you see, hey, now this is working. Yeah, any kind of message also responding, hello ABAPConf. And again, we are also doing some troubleshooting later on, calling from the NES4 system exactly this RFC on the steampunk side, and also how this will be configured. We also see later. Then that's the service part, so to say. Then of course, what I also said on the or showed on the slide, you as a developer, you have to create a so-called communication scenario. Adding your inbound and outbound services. That's exactly what I did here. Having my HTTP service, this hello world, and also this hello world RFC as an inbound scenario, as well having the same services as an outbound service. It's called the RFC, and also then using a new technology called the communication targets, so-called application destinations. We'll also come to that in a sec, or later in the demo, what that means. And using as an outbound communication, the so-called communication targets. That's the new way how we exactly recommend to our customers calling from the steampunk system to the outside world. Over this new service type of communication targets. Okay, then going back to the steampunk system itself. If I go here to this one here. Then based on this communication scenario I created as a developer, I will create a so-called communications arrangement. And this communication arrangement, you will see that the exposed services are in here. That's it loaded. Again, this hello world HTTP service, hello world RFC service. And on the outbound side, the same, this HTTP service and the outbound service of this function module, the RFC. That's more or less. Behind that, of course, there is a so-called communication system. This communication system is the real endpoint to where we are calling, or what is called basically. And also the communication system also contains the inbound and outbound user. You also see I just did some advanced configuration, also then later on configuring, for example, that we are using a wrong user from is configured so that we just run into an issue. Okay, that's the first part. And last but not least, we are now coming to the first scenario here. And here I just been using here a Postman client to exactly simulate, for example, Business Application Studio, doing this kind of protocol, or this configuration of authentication method, calling into the steampunk system. So that's the first part. Then exactly having shown the setup. Then quickly introducing the troubleshooting apps that we provide from a steampunk point of view. So we have the so-called display connectivity trace. Again, we are just using that anyway, but yet you see it and also as a reference for you if you will download the slides later. So the display connectivity trace is one app. We also have the so-called display security audit log. So everything is also tracked there. We have the authorization trace app. If we really run into an authorization issue, by in the application, I also prepared a sample for that one. Later on, if we are just coming to the point to also sending emails, there's also a transmission email monitor for the email transmissions. So also some stuff can be gone wrong here, as you just see here in the screenshot. We also tackle that in a demo. Then there is also, if something in regards to parallelization, if you run something in parallel with the BGRFC, for example, there is some nice things to know. We also have a sample here. And last but not least, if we are running really into or come to the demo for the SOAP services, there is the so-called IAF interface, the sub-application programming interface. For example, if we're using later on the SOAP messages, we need these kind of troubleshooting apps, monitoring apps to tackle down what are the issues there. Then, as I just said, we have the cloud connector. There are also some troubleshooting capabilities. I will show you also then, or we will see that how this can be used. I also show you some pitfalls there on the cloud connector side. Yeah, mainly there are these log and traces on the left-hand side that you see. We'll also have a look into that later. Okay, this is the full-blown picture of the scenarios that I prepared. Yeah, again, on the left-hand side, we have different centers, so to say, clients, yeah, like the Steampunk system, the BTP ABAP environment, an on-premise system. I'm using here also for the first demo in a sec, the Postman as a client, and also possible, yeah, that you just use an Excel as a client using ODBC connecting to an SQL service on the Steampunk system. Then in between, we have so-called destination service that we also use here in the Postman. Of course, you can also use a communication arrangement or communication target on the Steampunk side. Then having different protocols, yeah, like HTTP, RFC, SQL. SQL means that in the real world, we are using a so-called WebSocket RFC for this communication. SOAP, then of course WebSocket RFC, and also the SMTP protocol for sending emails. Then different authentication types like basic, certificate-based, SAML-based, and also the OAuth 2 user token exchange authentication. And of course, my receiver systems are simply an S/4HANA on-premise system and the BTP system. And that's what we are now doing. So first scenario is using Postman. Yeah, you know the slides. Using Postman, with HTTP, using basic authentication, calling the Steampunk system. We are just turning on the traces and see what happens. Okay, then let's go and do that. Okay, then first scenario. Let's go to Postman. Yeah, having a Postman request, you see there, connecting exactly to my backend system here, and also maybe one hint or one pitfall could be that you always have to use all this calls the so-called API URL and not the web URL. Yeah, if you're just connecting or logging onto your system in Steampunk, maybe you see that here. Yeah, this is the API. That's the web URL, not the API URL. In the communication arrangement itself, you will also find then the real endpoint, yeah, the so-called API URL that you should or must use in order to call the Steampunk system. Yeah? That's exactly what I do here. Just moving that down. Then press send, and of course there's a basic authentication, so meaning sending a username, that ABAPConf, yeah, with a dedicated password. And then, of course, we have at least now a first result. Yeah, hello, ABAPConf. Now I forgot to turn on the authentication, the display connectivity trace app. So maybe let's do that. So first of all, hopefully, yeah, we just see now that I was now successfully authenticated because all the requests will be successfully logged in the so-called security audit log. Now we should see also then a log from exactly this ABAPConf user. The technical user ID is CC for communication user in the system. That was exactly my request. Yeah, and there's also then the information, hey, what was the event message? Yeah, log on type HTTP. And the method was the P means password-based logon. So you see here HTTP logon. Yeah, so that's the translation, so to say, of the events here. And P means password-based logon. Yeah, so that you as a administrator, you see how the user basically logged onto the system. Yeah, so these events will always be traced, so that you also have this app is called security audit log. But now let's go to the display connectivity trace. Now I will just turn on the a new trace. Yeah. For that, you have to press define trace, say create, and now the first pitfall, I'm running always into that. Yeah, you see here, this trace is only valid for 10 minutes. Yeah? So if I now just use that, maybe I just give here a small path prefix for my HTTP URL, just my cheat sheet here. Yeah, and if I now execute and save that, yeah, then we only log these kind of traces here now in the connectivity tracer. I have to do that a little bit on the side, yeah. And again, it's only now 10 minutes, yeah. We will see that later on that I have to redo the configuration tracer, yeah. Normally I should now have put that to, yeah, at least 60 minutes because of the time of the session. But again, that happens, regular to me personally, yeah, because I just missed to set the timeout to a higher value. And I'm wondering sometimes, hey, why is not something not connecting if you just try to trace something? Yeah, so that's one of my personal pitfalls I'm always running into. Okay, then let's do again the, where's my postman here? Come on. Send, and then we should now see exactly this trace here in the connectivity, display connectivity trace app exactly. Again, having the user logged on with the performing basic authentication. Yeah, so that's normal, a normal way by exactly doing that. Yeah, so you see what's happening. What could also be happen is if I now go back to my Steampunk system, where's it here? Just open another tab here. Yeah, but also might happen sometimes if somebody tries to log on again and again and again, the communication user will be locked in the system. Yeah, so going here to the communication users, for example, we see my ABAPConf user here. Yeah, and if I now lock this user, I need to, oops, make it a little bit smaller and save that here. And if I now go back to my Postman collection, say send, then of course you are not authorized because the communication user is locked. And what is now the log here? Let's just do a refresh. Go. Now we should see another one. Yeah, for one. Yeah, and the user count is locked. Also, you see here the display connectivity trace app. What is the issue? Why this request failed? So let's unlock it again. Otherwise, we will run into some issues. Okay, then that was the first use case. Second use case is, for example, if I now just have a the authorization trace, just send here this request, and then we see that this communication user run into an authorization issue. If we're now using the authorization trace app, and we also see again this security. This for authorization trace security stuff in them. Of course, I need to activate it. For now, let's come to the communication user. That's exactly the sub ABAPConf user here. And if I now rerun that request, then I see the trace here in this app. Hopefully, yeah, it's now there. You see that I just traced the start application, so meaning that I'm now accessed the service itself. Yeah, that's this entry here. And then of course I see that I now have two authorization checks. Yeah, the first one was a valid one. This was okay. The second one failed because I'm not allowed to do that. Where is this configured? Maybe I missed to show that in the communication scenario. I directly as a developer can specify exactly these values here. Yeah. For me as that's the communication user. For me as the normal user, if I would have used an app, and might run into some authorization problems, then of course this is also possible. Then I need to go back to my Steampunk display authorization trace app, deactivate the trace, activate it again now for me as the business user. I'm logged on, of course, as Ingo. And if I now run again for example, the preview of the HTTP service, we should now see a second entry in the display authorization trace app. No, come on. Go, with my user. And then I check it vice versa, that this user just have now two values, that no, this is not the right one. ABAPConf, where is this failed entry? I should have basically seen. That's me. Now here, this one is missing. I need to scroll down, so that I'm now authorized to, wrong entry, that I'm not authorized to use the value. That should be basically visible here. I'm not sure why it's not working. Maybe I have the wrong entry. No. And normally you should see that I also then have exactly the same authorization trace that I'm allowed not to call XY, but I'm allowed to call ZZ. That's exactly this value here. Anyway, not sure why it's not working. Okay, that's yeah, the first test, so to say. Then let's go back to our slide now. The second use case is that we are now doing a normal basic authentication using RFC. Yeah, so for that, I just go back to the to this steampunk system here, calling my RFC module here. And what is also then possible that I just can put that into the background. Yeah, so meaning if I now put that into the background, yeah, it's now scheduled. If I now go back to the steampunk app, that's now the third app that I will show, is that we have a so-called monitor of the BG RFC queues. We should now see that there is something running. And I should also see that something failed because I also implemented some failing, that some execution issue occurred, like a assertion failure. That's what I built in. So if something happens in the background, for example, if you just launch that, you also see that the process itself is being executed. Now this should be gone, and also has now some execution errors. So if you have such a use case, you need to use this BG RFC monitor app in order to tackle these asynchronous calls using the BG PF framework. Okay, then next use case is certificate-based authentication. Now I will now go again back to Postman, configure there using a certificate and calling then the backend system, and also just do something wrong here in the second half of this test using certificate-based authentication. Okay, that's this one. So then let's do it here. So for me here, I have now the authorization type no authorization. If I send that, I would just failing connecting to the system. In order to now connect to the system, I need to configure or upload a certificate into Postman. Let's exactly do that. And for that, of course, I need to also then configure the right URL. Again, this is the API URL that you need to maintain here. And then, of course, uploading here now my private key file. This is this one here. Or specifying here a password. Do it right. And if I now call the steampunk system, then we see now the call is now working. And if we now have again a look into the display connectivity trace app, we should now see also that we now logged on again. This is since why, that's the right timestamp. And you will also see, hey, the logon was performed using an SSL certificate. On the other hand, if I now do a wrong configuration, for example, uploading not a valid certificate, which is not recognized or not uploaded into the communication user or communication system, that this one is accepted. Let's exactly do that. So misconfigure that one using now, I think I have to delete that one, Add again the same API URL. And now uploading a wrong certificate. So for example, I just used a self-signed certificate. So one, this is not accepted by the steampunk system. Add this one, and if I now send it again, this request, and I see a certification in Postman, and also what we should see that this is also then shown in the display connectivity trace app. You see that something is missing here, so that the certificate is not in the trust store of the steampunk system, so that you have some freaking error message here that the certificate was not validated from the steampunk system itself. That's then the error message on the steampunk side. If somebody sends or tries to go to log on with a certificate, the steampunk system is not trusted. Okay, Quite important now. I need to delete the certificate. I just made a note here on my side to exactly do that. Otherwise, we will also use or always use now for the next 2 use cases the certificate to log on and wondering why I do not see it. So I need to definitely delete the certificate. Because Postman will always use then the certificate as maintained here in the system. Okay, then next use case, just also have it here, is then the so-called SAML-based authentication. For that, I will use Postman, connecting or getting the so-called SAML token from the destination service on the BTP side. Then again, using the HTTP call from Postman, using this SAML token connecting to the BTP to the ABAP system. That's a typical use case for business applications, for example. So let's do that. Again, first call is to my destination service. At the beginning, I showed you the destination on the BTP side. That's exactly this SAML destination. I will get a so-called SAML token from the destination service from the BTP side. That's exactly this guy, and set this token in the next call to the Steampunk system as the authorization token. And with that, I'm now able to log on to the system. Hopefully. Again, calling my HTTP service on the Steampunk side, and that's it. So, Preisfrage, what happens now if I do the request again? Kai, you do not answer.
Should I answer?
Yeah, you can.
It will fail.
It will fail. And why? Yeah, now we have to find out again. Yeah, it will fail. Question is why. The SAML token is of course set in the system, but what is our friend? The display connectivity trace set. So let's have a look into there. Hopefully the time is still there. So the trace, because we defined it, only 10 minutes. So the next one, if it's there, again, that's exactly the issue. Now you're wondering why nothing is locked on the Steampunk side. That's exactly the point. So we'll do it again. Create a trace and now set the time up to 30 minutes, for example, in order to this one here. So let's say 40 minutes again, so that we just always trace the stuff. But again, that's a pitfall I always run into. Okay, but let's do it again. So we just logged on. So the first one was not locked, so we do the same stuff again. So getting a SAML token, again, this is the SAML token here. We set it in the next request as the authorization token here. First one, again, is working. Second one is not working. And the question is why? Now let's see that. Again, we are logging onto the system using the SAML-based bureau token. But the second request is not working. Why? Because the SAML token is already used. That's not possible in Steampunk. You have to do something else if you want to use SAML-based authentication. Connect to the Steampunk system. We do now fancy stuff. Maybe just also by a side remark, if we just go back here and select that, if I now go to the security audit log, we should also see then again all the access here. Based, and also for this first one that was successful, you will also see, hey, HTTP method B, and B means exactly this SAML bureau token login. What is this?
Runde. Noch weiter hier.
SAML bureau token, exactly, You also then see, hey, if something fails and somebody's calling you, that you just the audit and the security audit log, you see what was the authentication method used to connect to the system. And something fails and maybe something is missed here. Okay, but what is the solution now for SAML-based authentication? Of course, you also see what you have to do in order to use the SAML-based authentication is to set a so-called sub-security session header to create a security session. that you just get a certificate. With that certificate, at the first request from the SAML request, you just get a cookie, and we will reuse that cookie, and so you can log on again and again without getting a new SAML Bureau token. So that's what we now do again. Getting again the token first from the system, from the destination service, going to the second request here. Again, we are setting, right? I set it, yeah. Going to the request, send it again. Now we are logged on. And if we now do it the second time, hopefully we just can call the service again. So what do we see on the Steampunk side? If I go back, refresh here, so that was my first one that we logged on. You see that I performed a SAML logon with the Bureau token, and the second request, what I did is now that the security session was used, meaning that we now have a cookie in Steampunk on Postman. This always works if I click a second time, that we now get a cookie set in Steampunk on Postman to exactly use that cookie to log on with this so-called security session that was created on the Steampunk system. Okay, that's one important thing. If you're just using SAML authentication, again, for the colleagues from Business Application Studio, that's always a pitfall, doing some configuration wrong here. Then, because also of the sake of the time, I will skip some of the SAML stuff. Of course, what you can do is misconfigure some stuff on the BTP side. Again, I have here some samples. That's that you just use wrong audience, for example, on the destination side. That this audience is not correct specified in order to exactly do I think you have to watch or read documentation about that. If something happens, but you will also then see again your friend is the connectivity trace. You will see such failures then in the connectivity trace. What is missing? Okay, but I will just go ahead with the next one. That's the OAuth user token exchange scenario. So again, we are using Postman connecting to the destination service. Now using OAuth 2 user token exchange destination. Again, calling our same HTTP service on the BTP side. So let's do that. And for that, I need to get rid of the cookies first, otherwise this will not work. Then this can be closed. Again here, same procedure. We just get first an access token from the BTP side. Now it's called so-called Bureau token that we just get, not a SAML token, a Bureau token. For example, if you're also interested in what is basically the token about, there's also quite a nice website. This is this guy here. And if you are interested in how the Bureau token is encoded, you can directly see with that jot token IO website what is the token about, because it's only valid for me. So I'm able to log on to the backend system. There's also then the expiring date. It's now expires Friday. 5/12. You can log on with that one, and that's basically all the information. If you are interested in if the token is valid that is sent to the backend system, you just can display it here this website, for example. Okay, let's go back to Postman. Exactly using the token here again. Same request. Again our HTTP request. Now setting the Bureau token. And of course, I can reuse that token every time. I do not have to set the sub-security session because this Bureau token is now valid every time. Of course, I would also recommend to set the security session here in order that you just use then the certificate for the second call because you already logged onto the system. What we can now also basically do. Okay, then maybe just one configuration that is a misspell. So I just used here a wrong system. So configured my destination on the destination service pointing not to my Steampunk system I'm using, just using a different one, different Steampunk system. getting a token for that one. And if we're doing that, getting this token, again, setting it to the same HTTP service, using this Bira token for the wrong system. You see it here in the authorization header. Send it. I will just get Anmeldung fehlgeschlagen, means I'm not allowed to log onto the system. If we're now going back to our connectivity trace app, we should now see much more entries here. Let's go, and then we also see the last one, the one that failed, yeah, because of the certificate, more or less the authorization was not valid, because what happens behind the scenes is that this Bira judge token will be the judge token will be transferred into a short living certificate, and you are not able to use that certificate because it's not for the right system. That's what's happening here. This is this message all about. Good. Then next use case is now calling from a Steampunk system to a Steampunk system. So that's more or less the first outbound use case. Again, what I just told you at the beginning of the session was that for this use case, we recommend so-called communication targets. Yeah, so what is a communication target? A communication target is a development object that is referenced in your code to retrieve the correct destination from you want to consume a service. Yeah, and again, this is the recommended approach for using today HTTP communication. We're also creating or preparing or delivering that for upcoming releases also for RFC. Currently, it's only available for HTTP communication. Maybe just go inside my system, just open such a development object, communication target. This is exactly this guy here. And of course, what I then use, what I do here with that is that I just, by getting an instance of this communication target, create an HTTP client in my Steampunk system, executing again the request against my hello world, hello ABAPConf HTTP response. And if I do that, executing the class run, then you will see hello ABAPConf, get the normal authentication, meaning that I now use the outbound service that I configured for my communication arrangement, remember, and getting also again calling the inbound service on the same communication arrangement to call the HTTP service. Of course, you can do that also from one system to another. I'm just calling now from my Steampunk system over the communication target, then to the same Steampunk system. But of course, that will work also between different Steampunk systems. Okay, then let's come to the next outbound use case. Here, calling from Steampunk over a cloud connector to an on-premise system. Again, scenario BTP over communication arrangement. That's in this case using RFC, using basic authentication on the on-premise side, calling the on-premise system. But for that, what I want to show here is also then the setup of the cloud connector itself. So meaning, first of all, I'm now using here this class run here. That means that I am now using class run, the communication arrangement, calling really to the S4 system over the cloud connector and getting some response of, for example, the function module get system info, or also implemented a short, small test function module on the on-premise side. So let's execute it. So we see that I now get a response from the S4 system. That's my S4 system here on the remote side, as well as a message from the same system with a different response here, my own function module that I used here. Okay, for that, I'm now going to the cloud connector session expired. To my cloud connector to also give you some troubleshooting hints here. So first of all, what you have to do is you need to connect your sub account, then your cloud connector to a sub account. So that was the first part that you saw in the BTP cockpit, that this cloud connector is exactly connected to that sub account. Maybe just have one sample about connecting, or connecting to a different sub account. that's exactly this one. Yeah, what you have to do is to enter the region here. Yeah, basically you have a value help list here, depending on what site you are, your global account resides. That's the region here. Then of course you need to enter the sub account ID. You will also get this information directly on the sub account itself. Maybe going here, then yeah, this is the sub account here. And if you go to the overview page, you see on which endpoint, API endpoint you are. That's exactly the value that I entered, CF sub HANA on demand.com, and also then my sub account ID. And that's more or less what I entered here. Again, this sub account is already connected. That's why I'm using a different one, but the information more or less are the same. To be honest, yeah, I'm now using exactly the sub account that Thomas was using in this demo about the ATC setup. Yeah, you also see exactly the stuff inside there. That's exactly this guy here. Yeah. So this full-blown setup for this ATC demo is configured here. Yeah, you also see the cloud connector that is connected to. Yeah, that's more or less the same setup. Yeah, then let's go back to my cloud connector. This is this guy here. Yeah, this again, this is this custom code migration. Oops, custom code migration account. Yeah, then I will now log on with a user. I already I'm now using a different user because of I do not want to break the demo from Thomas. Yeah, and this user, of course, if you now see it, maybe just have a yeah, will receive an error message hopefully because this user in that sub account does not have the authorization on the BTP side to connect. So you need to have the so-called destination or cloud connector administration role, and this one is lacking exactly on this authorization. So if I go back to here the users, oops, security users, then you will see that this user here, yeah, exactly the online user here does not have any kind of all collections assigned compared to this one. Yeah, that's exactly the one that I'm using here to connect. This is then the cloud connector administrator. And if we're now connecting or using this guy here, example configured here, let's call it ABAPConf. Yeah. It works now. Yeah, and now we just connected our cloud connector to a different sub account. And if I now go back to this guy here, then we also see now this cloud connector is also now connected to the sub account. Yeah, no resources are yet exposed. We'll do that in a second. Yeah. So that's the first part. And then yeah, what we can do if we just now go inside the sub account, yeah, there again, no resources are exposed. Either you just create it manually. I also prepared here a short demo by uploading it, the same one that I configured for the real sub account we are connecting to. Yeah, so you can simply up and download the resources to the cloud connector. That's the outgoing part, so meaning that all the HTTP paths, so to say, are now exposed. And if we're now checking our connection, for example, then that should work, that we now have connectivity from the cloud connector to our to one of the Steampunk systems. But again, I will just go back to the one that is already configured. Maybe just delete that one here. Okay, so if I now go to this account here, yeah, I see what resources are exposed, and you see maybe I also disable the resource to the API business partner or data service. So if I now go back to ADT, this is this one here. Yeah, this is now a call using again class one in my Steampunk system to call to my S4 system over the cloud connector. But this time I'm using an OData service. Now for this one, I created, because I didn't want to implement manually all the stuff inside my Steampunk system. I created a so-called service consumption model based on the metadata from the data service, the business partner API, and based on that, I just created exactly this call, using on the one hand a plain HTTP call, on the other hand having also a method calling the service consumption model, by using exactly this service consumption model I just showed you. And by doing that, you should receive an error message because of the call is forbidden. Why? Because the service is not exposed in the cloud connector. Yeah, and if I now just enable that one, that stuff is now exposed and accessible, we just can go back to ADT, do it again, and hopefully we should now get a response exactly from my Steampunk system, from my S4 system, and calling the service on the S4 side. Yeah, and of course, vice versa, the same way is that we just can use more or less an inbound call to our Steampunk system. And if I go back to my presentation, that we are now calling from the S4 on-premise system over RFC, and also configured a WebSocket RFC connection, again using basic authentication to my Steampunk system. This is exactly the way back. By doing that, just maybe executing that, we will see two things. First one is not working, calling over WebSocket RFC, and the second one is working, using a normal SM59 destination mapped over the cloud connector. For that one, going back to the cloud connector, what I also need to do is to expose, of course, on the cloud connector, calling from the S4 system to the Steampunk system. Meaning I need to create a connection, pointing in the cloud connector to my Steampunk system if I want to use a normal SM59 destination. Using WebSocket RFC, I do not have to do that, because it's a normal plain HTTP call, so to say, directly from the S4 system to the Steampunk system. But for the normal, for this normal SM59 destination, I need to allow this and expose that one on the cloud connector side. What do we see by this call in the connectivity trace? It's more or less on the security audit log, because we should see a failure, that for the WebSocket RFC, that's exactly this guy, the password was not valid, configured in the SM59 destination on the S4 side. And that's why we exactly see this error message here in the security audit log. So that the password for this one is now failed. Okay, then wir sind schon drüber, ja.
Super.
Then, what you should have now, last one is the mail, but I think it's the same again, There's a transmission monitor app, and if something goes wrong, you will also see all the stuff then in the dedicated troubleshooting apps on the Steampunk side.